Cheers.
Cheers, cheers. Welcome, everyone, to the TechBrew Podcast, a podcast where we blend today's world of technology with the aroma of coffee, plus a deep dive into the latest tech trends, thought-provoking discussions, and headlines. My name is Cam, and I'm with my co-host, Emoticon Trash. Hey. Today's topic up for discussion is AI use within movies.
Yep. So we'll just start off with script writing is one of the, I guess you could say, first kind of steps with it.
Absolutely. One of the foundations.
Yeah, one of the, obviously, the very big foundations that you need. And, for instance, that's where you have people doing the script. That's where you have meetings with, like in Hollywood, with the actors, directors, or the team. And sometimes when it's kind of the, I guess you could say, finalized product in sort of way, that's where you have the table read too. So that's where they do the table read. They read through it, things like that. So with script book is kind of the, I guess you could say it does sound kind of like a trendy thing right now that's going on.
Right.
But with script book is to analyze scripts, use natural language processing to predict box office success, which that's kind of a big thing about that too. And obviously for me, for example, like I like to use, I know it's a little different, but I usually like to use like Rotten Tomatoes for movies, or see how good or bad usually movies are beforehand,
Right.
things like that, and offer insights into plot and character development. For instance, 20th Century Fox employed AI to analyze the script of Logan, which helped in making informed decisions about the movie's plot and themes. So things like that. Yeah, obviously, with AI, the advancing technology of it, that's probably going to be a joke later on. um, but yeah, I think with Hollywood, that's probably going to be a thing that's, I think in a lot of people's opinions, it's not very good, because you're kind of putting more the programming of AI into script writing to write a story for either short film, full length movie, hour or 2 hour long movie for that. And you're kind of putting a little too much trust into it. And with some other companies, they don't want to participate with that at all, because it's not really the human foundation of writing these beautiful stories, or just the amount of hour by hour, and then like, even months of putting all that work into like a 300-page movie script. And for AI it's able to do that, and who knows, maybe with ChatGPT, that's probably one of the companies that'll be kind of the founding partner of that, with how much they're doing so much now with ChatGPT. It's kind of almost everywhere now.
Yeah.
So I hear a lot about things of that, of using ChatGPT for that, like putting in the prompt of how to make this scene better, or how to make character development for this, and yeah, that would save you a lot of time for that. And yeah, it doesn't quite get, ChatGPT doesn't quite get everything correct. It's just and obviously for people that don't really know too much about it, but you don't really want to put all of your trust into ChatGPT, because all mainly ChatGPT is doing is just pulling information from the internet, bits by here, and just giving you information. So I would say don't really rely on it too much. I guess just for advice too, for people that want to make short films, things like that. It's a little, don't really want to get too much into it, but yeah. What are your thoughts about it?
Well, I was gonna bring up something about the writing aspect, something that fairly recently happened, which I think is a good thing. I know we were just talking about using Chat GPT to just straight up, write full on scripts and stuff. Luckily, with the recent writer strike, the Writers Guild of America had a several month strike where they were, protesting several things, including the use of AI. Recently, a few months ago, almost a year ago now, the Writers Guild of America and the AMPTP, who represents the movie studios, have come to an agreement and have formed a new contract that kind of helps writers and prevents studios from just straight up writing AI scripts. Now with that going on and that finalized, writers are in a lot more control of when AI is used in the writing process, whether that's scripts, dialogue, what have you. That thankfully is now up to the writers to predominantly decide when and where it gets used and if it gets used. So, which is a good thing, because had we had any movies that came out that were strict, the script and everything was completely AI written, might not have been good quality. But I think when it comes to AI, using AI to write something for you, I definitely don't think that all of the systems out there, ChatGPT, and there's several others, but ChatGPT, as we've said several times throughout this podcast, is like the big one. It's the most common one that people know, so it's the one that we reference a lot. But using ChatGPT to write something for you, I don't think is the proper way to use that. For me personally, I would want to use ChatGPT to give me examples on how to write in specific styles, maybe. Like, not necessarily like write me a story about, write me the next best-selling book. I don't want that. Give me examples of what genres are out there that are becoming the best-selling books. I might ask, or give me different styles of writing, first person, third person. I mean, there's several different styles of writing that you can use. So me personally, I wouldn't use Chat GPT to just write me the actual words I'm going to say. I would use Chat GPT to help me understand the different writing styles and how to implement them myself. That makes sense. If I ever decided to write a book or a movie or anything like that.
Yeah, and
That makes sense.
it's a whole lot. Yeah, and like it's a whole lot different with. I mean, we've kind of been in kind of situation before with like just making stories, and like with we've kind of delved into a little bit of script writing a little bit, and it's a lot different, and it's a different perspective with I guess people that have been doing the movie industry for years, and to have like, let's say, a whole room full of just other people, other writers, and no Chat GPT at all, and just to come up with the story, come up with different ideas, or how to kind of put everything together, and then take things out. And it's like, it's kind of doing the same kind of thing, because you have people with different resources,
Right.
that they've done or things like that. But then, yeah, it's like, who knows? In a couple of years, now it's like maybe 3 people in the movie industry, and they all 3 have laptops using Chat GPT, and it's like, well, there you go, you have a movie,
Right.
basically.
So now we're going to talk about visual effects. You film it, boom, now you got to add some visual effects. If it's very common. It's very common in action movies. It's very common in several genres, mainly action movies. But visual effects, I think, is the biggest. It's the what's what I'm looking for. It is like the biggest use of AI. It has the most potential in movies, for especially for the viewers to actually visually see. You don't really see AI in the script writing process because that's behind the scenes. You don't really see AI in a lot of these, but AI use and visual effects would be the most obvious um, use of it. I know the biggest thing about visual effects when it comes to AI is this deep fake technology that's been around for a few years.
Mm.
If you've ever watched like some of the newer Star Wars movies, or if you've watched the newest Indiana Jones movie, um, companies such as Disney use deepfake technology, which is AI, to basically de-age actors. If an actor needs to appear 20 years younger for any reason, flashback scenes or whatever, a lot of times they will take either the same actor or an actor who looks fairly similar in facial structure, and they will employ deepfake technology where they basically get a computer to basically view thousands and thousands and thousands, maybe not that many, but thousands of images of the actor at a particular age and develop a singular face that represents that actor that age. If you go on YouTube and you look at videos of deepfake technology and how like companies like Disney are using it, it's really interesting. You'll actually get to see these computers they have, these very high end computers, uh, scan all of these images. They're screen captures from older movies from when the actor was this particular age. They'll take pretty much all footage that they could possibly find of that actor around that age, and they will take every single angle that they can find of a face to 3D render a completely new face that is as close to that actor at that age as technology will allow. Um, and you see examples of this if you've watched the new, like I said, if you watch the newest Indiana Jones. That movie starts with Indiana Jones, like 40 years younger than he currently is, than Harrison Ford currently is. And they literally just put essentially a 3D model over current Harrison Ford's face. They put a younger version of him um, to basically digitally de-age him. So also what is referred to as digitally de-aging. They used it. I know that's what it said. Digitally de-aging. They used that technology also in the Mandalorian. Spoilers if you haven't seen any of the seasons of Mandalorian. Luke Skywalker is in that. I believe he's in the third.
No way.
Right. He's in the second season.
Yeah.
He was like the end. It's like the end reveal. Like, oh my god, it's Luke Skywalker. In that instance, they actually used a different actor. They didn't use Mark Hamill as like the stand-in, the body. They used another actor who like body-wise looked very similar to him, and facially looked fairly similar to a 20-something Luke Skywalker. But they used the same technology. They took images of Mark Hamill in Star Wars and other footage of him as much as they could from when he was in his 20s. Captured all, like took screenshots of all these images and had the computer basically analyze all of these images under like as many lighting conditions as you could possibly think of, all the colors of light that exist, and then create a digital, basically a 3D model that they then just tracked over that actor's head and face. It was quite fascinating how visual effects are used in that way. That's the biggest use of it right now within visual effects. It's the biggest acceptable use because it's using it as a tool to continue tell the story. It's not used to make up a story element, if that makes sense. It's used to help sell a story that already exists. Especially if you've got flashback scenes or anything like that where you need a younger person or a younger instance of an actor who is in real life, much older. So the biggest, like I said, the biggest company that's doing that right now is Disney. With a lot of their Star Wars stuff, since a lot of their newer Star Wars stuff is set during the old Star Wars period. Have tried, they're trying to get all these actors who are either old or no longer with us, implemented into these new storylines because they technically take place when that actor or that character should have been there. Same thing with one of the actual newer Star Wars movies is General Tarkin. The actor is no longer alive, but they got an actor who was around the proper age and body structure, and they just tracked a General Tarkin face essentially over him to capture his performance. So they also just remember they also recently did it in the not the newest Ghostbusters, but the second to newest Ghostbusters. They did it to I'm losing the guy's name, but one of the Ghostbusters, one of the actors is no longer alive, and they had a whole 3D model essentially made of him, so they could use him as kind of like a story element. So, that's the biggest. That's the biggest use of AI and visual effects. There's other instances where I believe it's used, but the most notable one that you'll see is definitely in deepfake technology. I think that's kind of like the biggest instance of it. So, another use of AI is within sound design. As we've already had an episode about sound design, it's also being used in movies. But what's interesting in this particular instance that I found that's a little different than just making audio, Skywalker Sounds, which is the audio department of Lucasfilms, who makes Star Wars and all your great films. They use AI to categorize and retrieve sounds from their library of sounds, because almost all of their sounds from their older movies were custom made. Obviously, they had to, not to sound funny, but they had to hit things, they had to scrape strings, you had to, make these sounds for these interesting lasers and dinosaur roars and robot sounds. A lot of those sounds were custom made, and they did that for 30 plus years. So Skywalker Sounds uses AI to help retrieve specific audio bites from specific movies, from specific scenes, if they need it or if they want to repurpose it and edit it a little bit to kind of make it sound a little different. And definitely, again, going back to Star Wars, they since a lot of their newer Star Wars stuff sometimes features instances of the older era of Star Wars, they will bring up the older sounds and repurpose them for the newer movies. So it's quite interesting that they use it in that way. That they use it to kind of help retrieve sounds from the vast library of sounds that they have. That it's kind of just like a search engine. I've actually seen a YouTube video recently of Adam Savage from Mythbusters. He has a YouTube channel, and he actually went to Skywalker Sounds and was they were showing him their library of audio that they've collected over the past 40 years and how it's categorized. And I mean, they've got their sound recording studio, and they've got these giant monitors. I mean, these huge screens where they can see all of the audio clips and and they can go to every single movie, every single sound in the movie, every single scene, and every single sound within that scene of every movie that George Lucas has ever made.
That's nuts.
They have the originals for everything. And I mean, it's like, yeah, they definitely need a way to categorize that and help them search through, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of sounds they have. It's out there. It's just ridiculous. So, yeah,
That kind
it is
of,
insane.
yeah, it kind of reminds me of just how less and less, and when I think of the first thing that came to mind when I was thinking of sounds is like those businesses. I can't remember what they were called, but the people that are in a recording studio, and it's like it looks like a antique store junkyard room. You
Oh,
probably
you're
know
talking
what I'm
about,
talking about.
yeah,
Yeah,
Foley.
Foley.
Yeah, Foley artists. Yeah.
So it's like it's probably not going to look too good for Foley now because them coming in, they're like, okay, we need some shoes, we need some
Right.
stand, we need some old rusty chains, and they're just like, oh no, we got it, we already got all that.
Let me just search. Yeah. Well, I mean, but that's also the thing with ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, which is the overall company that is Lucasfilms that controls their prop department, their audio department. That's ILM. That's kind of the thing, though. When you work with ILM, you're working with basically the top dog in the industry when it comes to special effects and audio.
Yeah.
So I would assume, granted, I've never made a movie with at all, but I've never never made a movie with ILM. I imagine that their price tag to be attached to a particular project is probably a pretty penny because they do have that vast library. So you're probably, if I had to guess, paying for essentially that library. Now I highly doubt that a lot of their sounds that they probably keep those to themselves for their own movies that are based off of their own intellectual properties. Like, I don't know if I could go, if I was a famous director, right, and I was like, I want to work with ILM to make a particular movie. I don't know if I could be like, hey, can I use Chewie's a sound from Chewie from Star Wars? Can I use? They're like, no. Can I use a lightsaber sound? No. Can I use a laser sound? No. You can use our other sounds. You can't use that. Because they have a vast library of sounds that aren't as iconic, but that they a lot of their iconic sounds generally are layers of other sounds that they've layered together. I can't give examples because I don't know any, but I do know that that's how a lot of famous sounds are made. Is it's several layers of audio that they've pretty much put on top of each other to make one sound. I know a lot of their spaceship stuff, making spaceship sounds in general, not even just ILM's way. Pretty much ILM's way is everyone's way. They take sounds of leaf blowers, and they take sounds of metal scraping, and they take sounds of whatever, and they just layer it on top of each other and play it as one sound, and it sounds like what we would perceive as an engine blasting off. So, but it's quite interesting. I would definitely be like, if I ever got into the industry, I think sound design would be like a really cool one, because I'm a firm believer of making it from scratch, making it with like Foley artists, the coconut. as they did back in the 70s with Monty Python.
Yeah, the one I remember from childhood, just watching behind the scenes, was like with lightsabers in Star Wars, when they would hit and collide, and it makes like a very sharp sound. And from what I remember back then, is they just had some kind of, I don't remember, it was some kind of fence or something, wired fence, and they would just hit it with some object, and it made this sound wave. And yeah, I remember just seeing that as a kid. I'm just like, that's how they did it? Like, what?
Hmm.
You know,
But it
because
sounds so cool.
it sounds so
Yeah.
cool, and it's such an iconic, sound, and the way they're able to go back to the studio and, like lengthen it if they need to, or make it a very
Right.
quick split sound, but
Yeah. If I had to say, uh, the most iconic movie sound, one of them, if not the most, is the lightsaber just turning on and off. The whoosh,
mhm.
that I think if you play that audio clip to go to any country in the world and play that audio clip, they're like, "Oh, Star Wars." It's kind of
Yeah.
like to me the lightsaber sound, pretty much any Star Wars sound, the lightsaber sound in particular, or even the Star Wars opening theme or Darth Vader's theme are just as iconic as Mario and Mario's theme. Like it's like what's the most well-known video game in the world? Mario. Mario, the character of Mario is literally the number one most recognized video game character like in the world. I would agree, or I would say that Star Wars is probably the number one most recognized movie or sound bite from a movie in the world. Um, just because it's so yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
definitely though. In general, I think we should watch out for sound because I wasn't able to find any instances of people necessarily just using uh creating sound from using AI. Most of it is helping them sort through libraries. Um, like for example, Skywalker sounds. But thankfully, though, I do know that SAG-AFTRA they've been renewing a lot of their contracts with actors and recording artists and stuff, and they've been definitely been combating the use of AI and making sure that it's properly, if it is integrated, that it's properly integrated and not used as a way to short somebody of money or of any royalties that they deserve.
Yeah. Lastly, marketing for Netflix, for example, uses AI algorithms to suggest um, other films, or based on person's viewing history. So
Hmm.
let's just say, for example, if you watch some type of romantic rom-com movie, and it next time you go on Netflix, it'll start recommending more, which I think a lot of people don't really recognize very much
Hmm.
at first, because I think it's just such a common thing that I think us using these platforms and kind of think that in a similar way, like I guess HBO Max, or maybe another that kind of look similar in a way, but uh, just things like that.
I think Netflix in general probably has the most technology built into their recommendation and like their suggested settings, comparing it to the other ones like Max and Hulu. Netflix, their recommendation settings tend to be a little bit more tailored. I don't know how to put it, but it seems to be more like in depth, whether it's based off of the actor, the main actor in the movie, or the genre, like war or whatever. I don't know why it tends to sometimes or most of the time they tend to be better recommendations than if I went on another platform and they got their recommendations. So I feel like Netflix's way of doing it is more technologically advanced than other platforms.
Yeah, and from where it started, I just did some reading. Is Netflix started using that for TV show House of Cards,
Mhm.
to get like more data from
Right.
consumers' uh, behaviors, or like
Mhm.
reviews or patterns,
Mhm.
for things like that. And yeah, I don't really watch Netflix too much, But
Mhm.
at the time, watching things like that, I'm a action movie person. I love
Same.
all types of action movies. Yeah, and something like that is where the next time I go on Netflix and it'll be like, well, since you watched this particular movie, how about this whole column of movies that you may like? And
Right.
it's like, huh, okay, interesting.
I will say, in particular, I'm a big action guy as well. In particular, I do like war movies, like World War II, Vietnam. I like if they actually have historical accuracy, first off. But I will say, like, a lot of the war movies, especially like World War II recommendations, because that's like the biggest thing I watch, have been pretty solid when it comes to Netflix. Recommending, like, you watch this movie, watch this, because I don't know why, it's just like I watch, like, the war movies that I watch, yeah, they're actiony, but they're also like drama. Like, I don't watch just like war, like action movies, just action war movies. I like the drama war movies that are about a particular event, and how in a particular event, how serious it was, and like how there's a lot of behind the scenes of particular historical events. So I'll watch a movie that's not really like actiony, but it's more like it's like a group of people trying to figure something out, like before something happens. So there's not a lot of violence. It's more of the stuff behind the scenes, the guys in lab cuts behind the scenes. And I've noticed that whenever I finish that movie, the recommendation section for Netflix tends to recommend more movies that are not just war movies, but that are like in that the specific subgenre, where they're more of like a storytelling war movie, not just shoot 'em up war movie. If that makes sense.
Hmm.
Like, if you've ever seen The Imitation Game with Benedict Cumberbatch, came out a few years ago. That's a war movie, but it doesn't actually show really any war scenes. It's more of about cracking the Enigma machine that the Germans had in World War II. I'll watch that movie, and then the movie recommendations, some will be like actual like war movies, and then some will be war movies that are more about solving something and not just bloodshed.
Yeah, like
No.
Saving Private Ryan.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
That's
Um,
completely different. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. It might recommend that movie, but they don't recommend like three others that are not violent, that are more about solving a particular issue behind the scenes. It's
Mhm.
very interesting. I do feel like their recommendation, their technology behind the recommendation is a lot more in depth than other streaming platforms.
So lastly, we'll just go with, just to kind of give context about how what we've talked about, just
Mhm.
all the stuff that we're using,
Right.
and more and more technology. But this was something that really just kind of caught my attention, was that released in 2022 movie Everything Everywhere All at Once, was the
It's a
behind the
phenomenal
scenes
movie.
of it was, yeah, I recommend people watch it because it's
Absolutely.
phenomenal. And but what really caught my attention was they barely used, well, not barely used, but they didn't use AI at all. And what was
Mhm.
is a small development team with no educational background at all. None of them like graduated or like to any university. Um,
Mhm.
and you just had a very small team that worked together and helped each
Mhm.
other. And then they just use free tutorials, just small things they didn't have to like pay for.
Mhm.
And they just created such a masterpiece. And this was all done by a small team compared to, like, let's say, like, I'm sure I could be wrong, but maybe like Transformers
Oh yeah, all those
series.
like
And it's like,
Avengers, Transformers. They have hundreds of people.
yeah. And yeah, and you see pictures of them and, like a group, and it's like 200 plus or something.
Right. They have to like take a picture of the whole parking lot because they fill out the whole parking lot.
Yeah. And then you just compare it to this movie
It's like
where you're
7 people.
like, yeah, and you're like, that's it. And
It's
they've
it's it's a group selfie.
Yeah, exactly. Like in a small little office or something.
Right.
And to me, that just blew me away. Of
Hmm.
like, so like comparing to having AI technology able to do half of the work, and
Right.
then this movie
Hmm.
having basically no AI, and then just this amount of people, and they were able to create such a masterpiece, and they've gone to win a couple of awards for it.
That's amazing. That's amazing that a small studio of like 9 people can accomplish something like that. It's amazing in general that studios who have hundreds and hundreds of people, how they're using AI to help them make these massive, and I mean massive projects. But hearing that story about everything everywhere all at once, having a studio of 9 people, in our world, it's an indie dev team, right? And it happens a lot with indie development games. They have a small team, make a game, it hits off, boom. So I think in general, um, I think it should be noted that you don't have to learn AI and you don't have to force yourself to know AI in order to still do great things. The technology is out there, yes, but the technology is also out there that allows you to still create things completely from scratch, completely with all human integration. If especially if you're not one to trust AI in general, or if you view it in a way that's not like, you don't view it as a tool, you view it as a replacement, which that's a big group of people who view it as a replacement via just use it as a tool. So while AI can assist in certain aspects of filmmaking, I believe the creative and emotional dimensions of storytelling, artistic expression, and human connection are areas where human professionals will always continue to play a irreplaceable.
True.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's going to do it for us today, though. It was a good discussion. Uh, Great info, especially about the indie team uh, with that movie.
Yeah,
So
I think for some people they'll probably be able to learn a lot more of like what could possibly be maybe in the next year or two with
oh yeah,
how.
absolutely. It's under 5 years now with how fast and how fast it's improving. So we'll definitely have to watch where AI is used in the film industry and in several industries, as we'll probably have more episodes about other industries. But it's good to note that there are agencies out there like the SAG-AFTRA union who are also watching the industry develop that way and who are able to have an authority on exactly how it gets used so it doesn't take over like Skynet. So it doesn't take over, humans' role in creativity, making art. Is what it essentially comes down to. You don't want to take the human out of art.
And yeah, hopefully if it comes down to at least just make it half credit for us and then half credit for AI, but
Hmm.
not just do 100% all credit towards AI, because like
Yeah,
that's not right.
right. No, uh, definitely not. I just thought of something that I should have said that was kind of funny. I should have said takes the art out of heart. That's a good quote.
Ah,
Takes the art out of heart.
ah, yeah,
But
that's
anyway,
good.
I think that's gonna do it for us today.
Yes, sir.
So remember, folks, drink your coffee in moderation. It's caffeine; it is dangerous in high levels. And don't believe everything you hear on the internet.
Have a
All
good one,
right,
folks.
have a good one, all. Peace.
Peace.